Good evening. You are locked in live, and I'm Algernon Cash. Thank God it's Friday. We are in the middle of election 2020. The election season continues to roll on. We've had somewhere well over 50 million voters have casted their ballot at this point. Hopefully, you've been able to make it out and cast yours. I will be honest with you, I have not voted quite yet. Hoping to get out either sometime this weekend or next week to go ahead and knock it out. But yes, over 50 million voters have casted their ballot so far this election cycle. And President Donald Trump and Vice President Joe Biden met for the last time last night on the debate stage for the last and final presidential debate. I will be honest with you, I was really surprised by Trump's performance. He certainly appeared to be much more subdued than the first time the two gentlemen met on stage. To some degree, you could even say that the president was actually presidential, believe it or not. And I thought that he did land a couple of nice jabs on Biden last night. He brought up a really great point around Biden's 47-year political career and certainly how the vice president has made a lot of promises this time on the campaign trail. And Trump rightfully asked, why didn't you get any of these things accomplished in the past 47 years? I thought that was a really good line. And really the type of line and the type of message that, you know, myself and so many other Republicans wish that Trump would continue to do, and we wish that he would have been doing it throughout this entire campaign. Trump really did build a really nice economy pre-COVID-19. And for whatever reason, political professionals like myself can't seem to understand why he has not used the economic message more, why he has not done more of what he did last night in terms of talking about Biden's 47-year record and talk more about, Biden's position on energy, which I thought Trump also did a good job of last night. So the Trump that we saw last night, us Republicans, especially us boring Republicans like myself, really wish that we would have seen a lot more of that President Trump alone throughout the entire campaign season. But we are moving into the final days. I think we've got about 11 days left. So for all of you all that you've got election fatigue and you're just tired of talking about the election, we've got about 11 days left in the race. Trump also said something last night that I've seen circulated quite a bit on the internet today. Trump stated that he was the least racist person in the room. And a lot of people have been talking about that particular comment today. And if you've been following Locked In with Algernon Cash all week long, if you've been following the page, then you know that I've been posting a lot of different stories related to the fact that black men are attracted to President Trump. And I've gotten so many questions from so many of you all week long asking, one, why do I keep posting these stories? But then two, some of you want to know why. Like, why is it that black men are attracted to President Trump? I want many of you to understand that this is not necessarily a new trend. It's not an emerging trend. It's actually the continuation of a trend. If you go back to 2012, we saw less black men show up in support for then President Barack Obama. And then in 2016, Trump was able to pick up black men, certainly at a much higher rate than many of his Republican predecessors. Trump carried black men, carried 13% of black men in 2016. Certainly a small number in comparison to Democrats. And I'm not trying to argue that black men are loyal to the Republican Party or black men are moving towards the Republican Party in droves. That's not my argument. I'm just arguing that there is an incremental movement or shift of black men that are really looking favorably upon the Republican Party, and that trend goes back all the way to 2012, and Trump has been able to expand it. Right now, Trump is polling 4 points higher than he did in 2016 with black men. A lot of people believe that he could take somewhere around 16 or 17% of the black vote. I certainly don't believe he'll take any less than 15% of black men this year round. But that's still I realize that black men are very loyal to the Democratic Party, only second behind black women who absolutely love the Democratic Party. I think Trump carried maybe 4% of black women in 2016. Now, part of this is the reason why part of this is occurring is you go back to 2009 when then Michael Steele was chairman of the Republican Party, the first African American chairman of the party. He was really the one that started to sow a lot of seeds for engagement within black communities from the RNC. I personally worked with Steele to set up some of the first minority engagement offices here in North Carolina, and was heavily involved with that initiative and that effort back then. So the Republican Party made up their mind in 2009, after watching Barack Obama run away with the vote in 2008, that they needed to start reaching out to black voters, specifically black men. So the seeds for all this was planted back then, and certainly there's just been, again, a continuation of it. The other part of it, and I won't deny this, I do think black men are attracted to this bravado or this masculinity that President Trump exudes. And so a lot of black men sort of like the attitude and a little bit of the rhetoric and the aggressiveness when it comes to the political establishment. And again, I think that's also been attracting black men to Trump's message. And here's the other thing too. I think for so long, black men have not felt like they've been engaged. They've been courted. And just like anyone else, you want to be courted for your vote. You want to be thought of as being valuable. And oftentimes black women within the Democratic Party is the constituency or the voting bloc that so many people court. And so I think, by President Trump taking a conscious and deliberate effort to actually speak to black men, and doing so consciously, that's the most important part. Something Republicans haven't felt comfortable doing for a very long time. But by doing it consciously and deliberately, I think again he's been able to expand his support amongst black male voters, combined with the fact that I think Trump has this message around economic opportunities and economic upward mobility and closing the income gap and trying to close the wealth gap between black Americans and white Americans, or white counterparts. And again, I think black men, especially black men, are attracted to this message around capital and entrepreneurship and economic opportunities and so forth. And all these are messages that I think that Trump has done a great job of over the last 4 years of pushing out into black communities. They literally went about setting up community centers inside of black neighborhoods to sort of share this message, again, predominantly with black men. And then also, in addition, some of the work that Trump has done on the First Step Act and being willing to tackle criminal justice reform. I think just about every black man, including myself, either has a family member or a friend, a good friend, that they know have went to jail or may still be in prison today. I've got friends that I grew up with that are literally in prison today. I've got cousins and relatives that have criminal records. And so for Donald Trump to be deliberate about wanting to address criminal justice reform, again, I think this is a positive message that attracts black men to not only Trump's campaign, but also to the party as a whole. And then lastly, and I think this is actually the biggest point here. For so long, I believe Democrats and this whole idea of liberalism has really promoted and pushed this concept of victimhood in a lot of black communities. And I really believe when you have conversations with young black men, 18 to 44 or maybe 18 to 50, they're just really fed up with this idea that we are a victim. We're victims, and we need to be treated special, or we need to be treated different because some kind of way we can't do it on our own. And I think the message out of the Republican Party, and even more specifically out of the Trump campaign right now, is not that message. It's a message of opportunity, a message of we want to create, we want you to have freedom and liberty to pursue the goals and the objectives that you want to be able to pursue. And I think that message is attractive to black men. We don't see ourselves as victims. We don't see ourselves as people that liberals and Democrats have to carry and always put a hand out to. Certainly, I think that all of us won't want to hand up, but we don't always want to hand out. And I think that message coming out of the Democratic Party has started to alienate a lot of young black men, combined with the fact that I think black men are just fed up with the idea of their vote being taken for granted. I think year after year, so many Democrats, especially in these presidential election years, so often Democrats just assume that obviously black women, being the most loyal bloc within the Democratic Party, followed by black men, are just going to be automatically loyal to the party and like sheep walk into the voting booth and vote for whatever Democrat that they tell us to vote for. And I think so many black men and women, quite frankly, are just tired of their vote being taken for granted, and that they want to be engaged. They want to have a conversation about ideas. They don't want to deal in scare tactics. They don't want to be made to believe that everybody over there is racist. And so I think some of these messages within the Democratic Party that they've been stuck on, really going back all the way to 1968, this message of victimhood, this message of you should fear what is out there, I think is finally starting to turn away and turn off a lot of black voters. So just a few ideas on why I think the message coming out of the Republican Party right now, as well as out of the Trump campaign, is attractive to a lot of black men. Jeff, I see you out there, man. I see your comment. Jeff says Trump was loved by black Americans prior to him running. It's so disheartening as he is their friend and has truly done a lot to help them. I think you're right. I mean, prior to Trump becoming president, he was someone that was very attractive to the black community, whether it be a Reverend Sharpton or many of the others that spoke so highly of him during the 1980s and so forth. And if you look at a lot of the hip hop songs, a lot of times they were rapping about Donald Trump. So again, I think that speaks to what I mentioned earlier on in my commentary, that there's this certain bravado and masculinity associated with Donald Trump that does attract black men. Speaking of black men, yesterday we released our newest episode of Locked In. I had an opportunity to interview a black conservative, Mark Robinson, who is a candidate for North Carolina Lieutenant Governor. We had a really great conversation. We talked about education. We talked about COVID-19 recovery. We talked about a lot of different things going on here in North Carolina. Mark is currently up in the polls by 5 points over his opponent. And so he's got a really great shot at being our next Lieutenant Governor. If you want to hear that conversation, go check that out. That's available here on the page. It is also on YouTube now. I think it premiered on YouTube about 10 or 15 minutes ago. So you can grab it on YouTube. You can grab the link. If you like what you hear or you like what you watch, please share that with some folks. Make sure they listen to the conversation. And certainly if you know some people out there that happens to be an undecided voter, send them that link and let them hear what Mark Robinson has to say about what's happening here in North Carolina. And if you have not done so, go to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All you need to do is go to YouTube, search Algernon Cash, and subscribe to the channel. And we're starting to activate that channel with a lot more of the content that we're producing on a day-to-day basis. I appreciate all of you supporting me and keeping up with me throughout this week. I am ready for the weekend. Hopefully I do get a chance to go out and vote. I'm planning to do some really good eating this weekend and just trying to relax. I hope all of you do the same. I will be back with you on Monday. Y'all stay locked in.